Hey, this is Mark Thompson. I'm the voice of Yoda in many of the Star Wars audiobooks, and you are listening to Youtini!
You're listening to The Living Force.
Be mindful of the living force, young Padawan.
A Youtini podcast. Episode 13. Alphabet Squadron Roundtable, Part 2. On this episode, social media shoutouts, going gaga over the Sith Trooper, and Part 2 of our Alphabet Squadron Roundtable. With your hosts,
Who are you?
Corey Helton, Eric Eilerson, and Charles Hankel.
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna feel like tasting this ice cold Miller High Life. Just refreshing.
Oh, God.
And
look, I've upgraded. I'm drinking Corona Extra today.
because you're so extra today. That's why.
That's right. I bought it for our Stranger Things party last week, which went really, really well. Was that last week? That was 2 weeks ago. God, we haven't recorded in so long, man.
It's been so long, man.
I don't like this. Like, I don't ever want to get ahead again. Let's just be behind and stressed out about it, because I prefer that to like not hanging out and talking about Star Wars.
I agree. We need this to ground ourselves in our lives, or else we're gonna spiral, man.
Roger.
The audience needs it too, and that's good, because welcome to episode 13 of the Living Force podcast. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and I am joined today by my friend I have not seen in so long, Dr. Corey Helton. What's up, man?
Hello.
And we are unfortunately without, at this moment at least, Dr. Charles Hankel. Real life happened.
Yeah. Working that doctor life, man. So we're going to find out if, so while we were recording this, we plan to get together at a certain time. We've already sort of like postponed a good amount of time, and Charles is still stuck at the hospital. So we're gonna see. He might come in the middle of this episode. If we're gonna take a break in the middle to kind of give him a little more time. So we'll see. He might be in later. If so, then you're gonna get to hear him. But if not, may his soul rest in peace. He's kicked off the podcast.
This is the Charles Hankel memorial episode of the podcast. But yeah, maybe right now he's on his way home. Maybe he's covered in fluids of some sort. I don't know how hospitals work.
I hope he's not covered in fluids. Although a lot of patients do look like Jabba the Hutt these days, so.
Me some Wooga Charles. It'd be awful. But before we get into the possibility of Charles returning, we have a bunch of stuff to get to. This is technically our part 2 of our Alphabet Squadron Roundtable, so we'll be getting back to our discussion of that awesome book in a bit. But we had a really great social week this week, so we have a few shout-outs we want to throw out here. First of all, we have kind of a miraculous, odd shout-out, which is to Timothy Dunlap, who's at Toasted Zen on Twitter, but we've chatted with him a bit on Twitter, but he sought us out on Patreon.
This is nuts. I can't believe this happened. So, Timothy, right? Timothy Dunlap, right? I'm gonna I want to talk to you directly here for a minute. I'm gonna try to find your exact comments that you left. Here we go. He said, I love what you guys are doing. I subscribe for you. Although I do not spend any time on YouTube anymore, I'll catch you on Twitter. May the force be with you. So, Timothy, I got this notification on YouTube. So our podcast episodes are automatically posted on YouTube through Libsyn and stuff. That's who we host the podcast with. So it's automatically posted. We occasionally get rare folks will comment on YouTube videos. It's just the audio and like a picture, right? So if anybody likes to listen to podcasts, like kind of at a separate window at work or something through YouTube, you can do that. But we don't get a lot of action on there because I think most people are subscribed through iTunes and kind of traditional stuff. So I got this comment through YouTube from Timothy here. And then about 5 minutes later, I got this notification via email. It says, Timothy Dunlap is now a patron of your Patreon page. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. All right. So I looked it up, and Timothy found us on the internet somehow. I don't know that we've ever talked about having a Patreon.
No, because it's actually kind of a secret Patreon, because that's how the bunch of us split the cost of running the website and running the podcast, because it's a lot easier than just Venmoing stuff all around. We just said, hey, we'll set up a Patreon. So for hosting fees and stuff like that, us that run all of this can help fund it.
It's a nice way for us to sort of like, for me, who sort of handles all the finances, to kind of bill everybody on the team, I guess.
Yeah.
Like on a monthly basis. I don't have to just do that. And we've always had the intention of pushing Patreon live for the public, right? Because like I would love to be able to get a little more assistance with the website. Like the Youtini.com is fairly expensive to run. I mean, we spend probably a couple $100 a month, I think, overall. Like getting everything. There's a lot of different moving parts, basically subscription fees for different things. We are paying for a software called Zoom that we do the podcast with. So we have a significant amount of expenses, and I've always wanted to push it live. We haven't talked about it much on the show yet because, you know, we don't want to be those guys that are like, hey, give us all your money. We started a podcast so you get, you know, we can get you as patrons on our Patreon page.
Yeah, like 2 episodes in. Like before we were,
right.
We've talked about this quite a bit. We want to grow an audience, and then we want to figure out what you guys want to hear more of so we can give you more of that content. But Timothy just jumped the line, found the Youtini Patreon, and threw a couple bucks a month our way. So...
which I am so unbelievably impressed with.
So
like Timothy, you're like my favorite fan ever.
Yeah,
like right now.
Like
and also,
founding member.
Just for the record, if you want to be my next favorite man, my favorite fan of all time, like I think Timothy is giving us $5 a month, $6. That's the current bid. That's the current bid for my favorite fan, $6 a month.
We're in this auction style. It's just going to be going up.
Yeah. But seriously, Timothy, thank you so incredibly much. Like it really seriously means a lot that we are doing something that you're enjoying. It means so much to us that like you like it so much that you're willing to give us money. Like, you know, that seriously means a lot, especially because you went so far out of your way to find us and do that. That's awesome. You know, please keep it up. Let us know how we can help you more. Get into Star Wars books if you're not already a diehard fan, and shoot your questions our way. We'll make sure to answer them.
Absolutely. And we'll be doing an official Patreon launch, again, in the future on this podcast. But if you're like Timothy and you want to jump on the bandwagon, kind of help us out early, patreon.com/Youtini is where we are. We'll plug it at the end of the show. Again, we don't have any perks right now. I want to be very transparent that we're not intending a full launch yet, but if you want to be an early adopter, we'd love that.
Yeah, we have some cool plans for that too that we can kind of go ahead and briefly mention that we've kind of bounced around ideas from. We're eventually going to shift, I think, to live stream recordings, or something similar, because we're already in a video call now. It wouldn't be that technologically difficult to stream these, right? So we might do some sort of after show hangout with Patreon patrons. I'm so bad at using the lingo correctly. With patrons, we might do some sort of after show hangout with patrons. They would get we'd answer all their questions every single episode, that sort of stuff. So we have a lot of cool ideas for Patreon. We're just not quite ready to really jump forward with that. So like Eric said, if you want to find us on Patreon and give us money, by all means. Just, just don't expect a whole lot in return exclusively for patrons quite yet. Maybe in the next, I probably shouldn't give too tight of a timeline. 3 to 6 months, I think that's probably gonna happen.
I think that's pretty tight. But until then, keep chatting with us on Twitter. A bunch of you do, and we've been getting a lot more active on there. We've loved it. This week, we actually got one really cool comment from Rafaela, who's at Rafika. It's a CH. I think it's a Raficha. That said, I can't thank you enough for an episode about one of my favorite Star Wars books, talking about Alphabet Squadron. I loved every second of it, and I can't wait for more next week. I know I'm in the minority because most of the fandom didn't like it as much as I did, so I'm really thankful when I find such great discussion. So thank you. I am right there with you in this minority of loving this book so much, as you heard on the last episode, and you'll hear again on this one. So thank you for that comment. Every time we see something like that, it really makes our day. It warms our hearts. It's great.
Just to comment on this a little bit too, this, exactly what you said, Rafaela, is why we have the opinions that we have at Youtini, right? Listen to the very end of the episode. You've never listened to the end of our episodes. We have this whole Youtini, what have we been calling it? The Youtini fan code? Yeah, we have the fan code, right? Because just because one person dislikes it, I didn't love Alphabet Squadron so far. I've been kind of open about that, but I haven't just crapped on the book and how awful it is, because that's stupid. And my opinion is not the only opinion that matters. So to hear people that loved something in the expanded universe in a different way than I did just warms my heart, because that's what Youtini is all about, and that's what the expanded universe is all about, is sort of finding what it is in the galaxy of Star Wars that you relate with. So thank you so much for that comment, Rafaela. Keep them coming.
100%. And to move into another area of our social, we got an email this week from Zach Zorn, which is possibly the greatest name I've heard in weeks. Mr. Zorn, double Z. It reads, Absolutely love the website and the podcast. Thank you a bunch, Zach. And he says, I have a request for an addition to the reading collections or ideal reading order section. Would it be possible to include an ideal list to read that is canon specific and one that is legend specific? And Zach, it's hilarious that you asked this question because for the last year and a half at least, we have all been talking about whether this is something we want to do. Because one of the biggest problems in getting into Star Wars books, as we've said a billion times, we'll say it a billion times more, is where do I go first, then where, then where, then where, right? We don't always have that one friend that can kind of help you out. So that's what Youtini's been trying to do.
Yeah. So this is funny that you asked this. This is one of the things that, like, since I founded Youtini in like 2017, that I've been like, guys, we need to do this. And everybody, I've gotten a lot of pushback on the team because, like, I honestly kind of agree with the team now at this point. Like, there's not a correct way to read Star Wars books, right? Like, that's why our website is laid out in the order that it's laid out. Like, we don't say, hey, read all of these books. We say, hey, read these first 5 books and then check out our other collections based on topics of what you like about Star Wars, right? Because there's just so many different ways to do it. Like I just said a few minutes ago, like, my opinion doesn't actually matter. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we have maybe found a solution to this problem. Is what if Corey puts together his list of suggested reading order of Star Wars? That way, nobody else at Youtini has to take the blame except Corey if it's in a garbage order. So
you read I, Jedi, and then you read Plagueis. And then you get your bookends.
The first step of reading Corey's Star Wars books is you buy all of them, and then you take I, Jedi and place it directly into the trash. After you've done that, you take the New Jedi Order series and then place that directly into the trash.
And then you take out the trash because you don't want to overflow. You put a new bag in.
Yes. Yes, you take Alphabet Squad. I'm just kidding. That's not funny. Alphabet Squadron wasn't that bad.
No.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, like, everybody has a very dramatically different opinion about how you should get into Star Wars books, what order you should read them in. And my opinion is going to be different than Eric's, substantially so. Yeah. Actually, in that specific instance, like our order would probably be very different,
ridiculously different.
Yeah. Right. So. The idea, long story short, Zach, like, we probably will do something like this in the foreseeable future. I don't know how long it will be before we do it, because this is a pretty big project. But, I have a rough list sort of already kind of in mind that I might just jot down, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. Is this something that you want, listeners? Like, if you guys are dying to get the Youtini suggested reading order, then let us know. Tell us on Twitter. Tell us an email at
livingforcepod@youtini.com.
Yeah, shoot us an email if this is something that you want to see and that you think that we're stupid for not doing it already. Then let us know, because we can definitely do it. Tell us what you want, people.
Tell me what you want, guys. What do you want? And until then, we are actually doubling down our efforts lately to increase our collections on youtini.com already. So we have collections like, if you like Darth Vader, read these books. If you like Han Solo, read these books. So if you've been wanting more collections like that, more and more are popping up every day. So just stay tuned to our homepage to check that out.
Yeah, we got some really good ones too.
Yeah, we got a Claudia Gray one that just went out. Yeah. We got a Dooku one that just went out. Yeah,
there's a lot of a Chewie one just went out too. We had a Chewie one go out. Attack of the Clones. That one went out. Yeah, a lot of really good. Man, the team has been kicking butt lately.
They're so awesome.
There's so many of those coming out. We should probably do a better job each week of talking about what guides are out so we can direct people to the site.
You're so right. We discover these as we record, listeners. It is all
that's right.
off the cuff.
That's right. See, this is why when me and you get together and Charles is not here, it just all goes to shit, because
precisely. Although, listeners, I received a message. Charles is on his way home at this exact moment, so he will be here for the second half of the episode.
We're going to make it happen.
So last couple things before we get to that part. Then we'll take our break and get to the meat of this episode. If you haven't skipped to it already, thank you very much. I wanted to say a quick thank you to a couple shows that will be featured on, or have been featured on. Corey and I were lucky enough to go on Inside the Force, just at Inside the Force a couple weeks ago now. We had a blast talking about...
It was a ton of fun.
God, so much stuff. So much book stuff. Our ideas about the fall of the Jedi.
I met those guys at Celebration last year, or in April, and as soon as we immediately hit it off. They're from not far from me in Kentucky, because I'm in Tennessee, and that was a ton of fun. Definitely check out that episode. Do you know what episode number it is by chance, Eric?
It's 200 and something. If you're listening to this, we're recording this on July 15th. It'll come out on Thursday. It's maybe 2 or 3 episodes back in the Inside the Force feed.
Yeah.
So go ahead and check.
Late June, early July, probably something like that. Yeah, go check it out on iTunes. Those guys are a lot of fun to listen to also.
Absolutely. And next week, I'll be on Friends of the Force, which is at Friends of Force on Twitter, alongside Alderanian Rose. If you're on Star Wars Twitter, you may have heard of her, at Alderanian R. She's a big presence on Star Wars Sessions and a couple other podcasts, and we'll be talking all about Alphabet Squadron there. So if you need more Alphabet love and you need me to sing the praises of Will Lark a little more, then next week, I believe, will be the Friends of the Force episode on that. Finally, a lot of shout-outs this week, and I love that because it's all a community, man.
This is my favorite part of Star Wars podcasting, is so the giant Star Wars podcast community, yeah.
I love it. Finally, I want to give a huge shout-out to the guys at Star Wars Sessions, which are the best UK Star Wars podcast, I'll say that. We were chatting a bunch these last few weeks over the Women's World Cup. If you haven't been following the Women's World Cup, the U.S. won. So that was great.
You don't say.
But there was a day where the U.S. and England were playing each other, and we just got to shit-talk each other a ton on Twitter, all in good fun during that game. And it was just a blast. Those guys are absolutely legendary. And if you want some great banter and Star Wars news and stuff like that, you got to check out Star Wars Sessions. So thank you guys for being so cool every single week. Now, Corey, we're going to get to this break. We're going to get to Alphabet. But before we do, 2 more things. 1, we got a new trooper design this week for Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. It was announced that at San Diego Comic-Con, there will be exclusive toys about the Sith Trooper, which is an all-red First Order trooper, a little reminiscent of some Phase 2 clone armor in there somewhere. I just want your initial thoughts on this, because we got to be, in the know.
Let me tell you, there's a lot of talk on Reddit and stuff about this trooper. He's like, he looks exactly like a lot of other troopers had. Like, why the bright red? That makes no sense. Like, the Sith trooper's already been done and all this stuff. And man, I just gotta tell you, those people are so absolutely wrong, because the Sith Trooper looks flippin' awesome. And I don't know what the heck. Yes, I don't know what the heck they're thinking. Like, honestly, I kind of like my first initial thought of seeing the pictures is the armor is very aggressive looking.
Yeah,
like, have you noticed that?
Angular. It's very sharp.
Yes. Very angular, very sharp. It looks kind of like the Death Troopers a little bit, like it's those sharp angles and stuff. And it reminds me of like older Public stuff. So I absolutely love it, man. I can't wait to see what it is. And what the heck does it mean? Sith Trooper?
I think it's gotta. So we're not huge speculators on this podcast, as you guys have known. We'd like to wait for information and then talk about it. But for Sith Troopers, for me, I agree. I love the design. I think they're going to be an elite squad. And with Kylo Ren saying, we have to let the past die, right? Let the Sith and the Jedi die. I think after Rey said, no, I won't join you, maybe he said, okay, fine, then I'm going to double down and go back into the Sith artifacts. Because like in the Galaxy's Edge comic, he's looking for a Sith artifact of some kind. So maybe he's looking for holocrons. Maybe that's something to do with it. But regardless, I love the design. If anyone is going to San Diego Comic-Con and wants to pick up that Funko Pop, I'd love that. Tweet at us. Get at me.
Yeah, seriously.
It just looks so fun.
One of my favorite things about all these new troopers since they're coming out is we get to see them like in various mediums across the expanded universe. Like the Death Troopers showed up in Rebels. And like they had a whole little cool thing where they were in Rebels and stuff. And I absolutely love seeing like these new troopers show up in different places because they're awesome. And I can't wait to see them in a book or comic. We haven't got a whole lot of Death Trooper stuff since Rogue One, but we've gotten a little bit and it's been cool.
Yeah. So very excited about that. Living Force Podcast officially endorses the Sith Trooper. We love it.
Yep.
And the one last thing I wanted to talk about is a while back I said I was going to read Rogue Squadron, and I finished it. I finished the first book, and I wanted to just kind of give a little shout out to Rogue Squadron for being a good book. I didn't love it. I thought it was good. It was, really? Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I'm surprised you didn't love it, but you loved Alphabet Squadron.
Exactly, but I realized I think that Rogue Squadron was more plot based, which was a big complaint about Alphabet Squadron, especially within our team, right? And Rogue was a lot more about the plot machinations and about a lot more technical stuff. And I felt like I didn't quite know each character once we got out, because there were like 12 of them, and then like when one or two died, I was like, that's a bummer. But it didn't hit me in a way because I didn't feel that close connected to them. But I thought it was written very well. It's very much Legends. It is very illuminating to see. Now that's Legends Starfighters, and Alphabet Squadron is kind of canon Starfighters. I can see the difference. So I'm probably going to check out the rest of the series at some point. It didn't make me immediately want to go to the next one. I know Charles is screaming in the car on his way here right now, like hearing me say that through the Force. But I'm not going to rush out to get book 2. It was a lot of fun. It was solid. But man, I honestly have a lot of canon books that are piling up on the bookshelf here, so I don't got time to go back into those Legends right now.
Interesting. Well, I'll be excited to hear how your thoughts sort of compare to Alphabet Squadron as we get into part 2.
Yeah. So we are going to get to that right after this break. We're going to take a quick little rest to hear from a Youtini member. We're going to get Charles in here, and then we will continue with our thoughts on Alphabet Squadron. Be right back.
Hello there, scruffy-looking nerf herders. Matt here, podcast editor for the Living Force podcast. Now, for the past dozen episodes, you've heard Youtini members talk about their favorite Star Wars EU novels and reading experiences. I want to talk with you about my favorite comics. Star Wars Vader Down is a 6-issue crossover released in 2015 between Marvel's flagship title and the Darth Vader series. This project was co-written by Jason Aaron and Kieran Gillen and features the Dark Lord of the Sith on his own, facing off against the Rebel Army. Now, if you love the hallway scene at the end of Rogue One, you will love how Vader is presented in Vader Down, and the end of the story arc gives Star Wars fans a very big reveal. So check out Vader Down, which you can find in trade paperback form at your favorite comic sites, and to learn more about Star Wars in comic book form, look for the Youtini Guide to Comics coming soon to youtini.com. May the Force be with you.
So you've rushed here, Charles. You're in your scrubs. The question is it going to be worth it?
It's going to be worth it. I was, just saying I was looking forward to this all day, and life and work was trying to make me miss this, but I wasn't going to let it happen. So I'm here. I'm ready for my weekly dose of Living Force, and all you who are listening, you are complying with doctor's orders to have one weekly dose of Living Force podcast.
That is right.
I cannot wait until we have this, because I kind of like this. Like, one person gets to drop in like this. Like, we can make this work, all right? I can't wait till one of us is like on call or something and like doing this recording from a call room, and we get paged in the middle of the talk, be like, "Listen, guys, this has been fun. I gotta go. I'll see you guys later."
Nah, man, just throw that on speaker while you're doing compressions. It's all good.
That's
we
gonna happen.
Klaxons going off and everyone running around.
Exactly.
But yes, folks, as you can hear after that particularly marvelous clip that we just heard, Dr. Charles Hankel has made it back. Again, still wearing scrubs, still wearing that smile, so ready to talk about Alphabet Squadron because that needed to happen. Welcome back.
I gotta say, Charles, the teal scrubs look good on you, man.
They do. You wear them well.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm doing my best. It's probably good that you guys can't see me too closely because, like I said, I'm kind of a hot mess, man. But it's all right.
Yeah. We already talked about the types of fluids you might be covered in. I did inform Eric that these days there are a large number of patients that are reminiscent of Jabba the Hutt. So
that's true. I wonder what Jabba's BMI was.
100? Is that a bit?
Oh man.
Maybe.
Probably very, very high. I don't know. The Hutts, funny enough, there's actually a good bit of like biology about Hutts in the expanded universe.
In the Christian
books, they have 2 hearts, right? They have 2 hearts.
Yes, it gets talked about like an abnormal amount for some reason.
I want to say, and Eric, you read this more recently. I want to say, isn't there like a Hutt with heart failure?
Yeah.
In some of the Crispin stuff, like one of them isn't working anymore. Or...
Yeah, and then they get like the poison that they use to kill that Hutt, I think, causes it to go into something like cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. So.
Yeah, and also they're like super hard to kill because you have to like, if you shoot them or stab them, like the organs are so far in that they're like you have to just keep stabbing them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Or just use a chain around the neck. Works every time.
That's true.
We saw it.
Which actually is fairly impressive considering how much blubber there is around.
It's incredibly impressive.
The fact that Leia did that is pretty cool.
We
need to do at some point we're going to have to, out of obligation, do a Star Wars medicine episode, right?
Oh my God, we absolutely will.
I guess so.
There's a good deal of that. Not a whole lot in canon. There's the whole space blood illness BS.
Bloodburn, yeah.
Well, there was
whatever that's in.
There was the bad guy in Last Shot, whatever his name was. He was a surgeon, right? I mean, he was like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. One of you.
That's true. And Ponda Baba and his
Dr. Evazan.
Dr. Evazan.
Dr. Evazan. Yeah, he was the crazy surgeon too. So there's a good number of doctors and stuff. And
we'll do it. Throw it in the queue.
All right. Yeah, but before that, guys, we got to get back to Alphabet Squadron because
yes, we do.
Listeners, now we are recording week of, but for a bit we've been trying to get ahead of the schedule, so we've been backlogging episodes. So it was 2 weeks ago we talked about Alphabet Squadron the first time. So Charles, bring us back. Where were we? What were we talking about with the best squadron there has ever been?
Well, assuming I remember what Alphabet Squadron was about, I believe that we left off speaking about all of the individual members, and I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that we left off with Eric's favorite member of Alphabet Squadron, none other than A-Wing pilot Will Lark.
Oh, we did. Will's marvelous.
You've been dying to talk about Will since we first started
reading this book. I was like, guys,
2 months ago or something.
Yeah. Eric is basically guardian of the Will. So
I accept it. I will tattoo it on my chest, my naked chest.
And here we are again.
Poop on the chest. Poop.
So this is already entirely off the rails. So Will Lark, to talk about him, he's one of the surviving members of Riot Squadron, who is basically a whole squadron of A-Wings who was fighting for the New Republic. They were actually involved at the Battle of Endor, which I think is pretty awesome. Will was there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about where Will came from, his homeworld a little bit. It was really his main focus throughout the entire story. It was a world that he just called home, capital H home. I believe it is Polonius?
Polonius.
Or Polonius?
I think according to the audiobook, yeah.
All right. So Polonius, what did you guys think about hearing about his homeworld and some of the culture that it described?
It reminded me a lot of Pandora from Avatar.
Yes.
Because they fly on those beasts, and that's how they learn to fly, is with the animals of the planet. And it was very much like a tribe mentality of everyone kind of helps raise everybody, everyone's connected. They're very close to the earth and things like that. So it really just reminded me of that. It was I love the visuals of that movie. That was one of my favorite movies for years, honestly. So it really got me into his kind of mindset.
Dances with Wolves animated edition. Anyway, so
yes.
Have you guys read Phasma?
Mm-hmm.
I have not.
So Phasma talks all about her home planet, which is this very sort of weird backwater planet with a sort of tribal mentality. And I thought it reminded me a lot of, when Will was talking, that's kind of the stuff I was picturing was similar stuff that was occurring in the Phasma novel.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. I will say that, for Will to be from such a interesting cultural place, he doesn't. I don't think it reflects him a lot. He doesn't, other than his sort of his memories and his reminiscences on thinking about his homeworld and stuff. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of being from that Avatar riding animal type of primitive almost culture, it didn't come through. I don't think very much. Does that make sense? Am I making sense at all?
You are, and I think that there's a possibility of it clashing with the animals versus the tech, right? We're flying animals, and then so how does that mean you can fly starships, kind of thing? And I think for me, it came out in the way he talked to his ship, right? He even got mocked by other people in his squadron for it because he treated his ship almost like a living being. And I think that's where that
actually, yeah, you're right. That came through
that's
a
where
little
it connected.
bit. I'm really thinking more about you know how the people in Avatar are like the Indians in Pocahontas.
Yeah, they actively don't like technology. They kind of actively are against it.
Yeah, they're actively against it. They're super primitive. They're they don't have technology at all. That's kind of how Will described it, in my opinion. Or at least that's kind of what I gathered from it. But that's it just seems bizarre that that's where he's from. Does that make sense?
I think it does. I think another thing that is interesting is that you find out that he comes from this very, let's call it a backwater planet where, there's a very specific culture. I think it's interesting that you find someone who is as accepting as Will Lark and as open to all other cultures when he's coming from such a closed off environment, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because Will, you're so right, man. Like, Will is very accepting of everyone. He always wants to listen to the stories everyone tells. He always kind of wants to know what everyone's point of view is and let them know he's there for them, like to a fault at some points, especially with Chas, right? He wants to open up a little too much and she's like, get the hell away from me. And I think that's interesting because I think the easy writing trick, you're totally right, would be to have the person from the planet that is closed off to be closed off. They are representative of that. Yeah. So flipping that on its head, I thought was a fun writing convention to be like, oh, right. Like, that's my preconception.
And it's also interesting because he's a human, right? Yeah. So like different cultures and different alien species is no new concept in Star Wars. There's tons and tons of alien species with all these crazy cultural norms and language things, and like back on their planet they do things their way. Like, there's a lot of hive mentality, like hive mind type of aliens, like the Geonosians, the Verpine. Like, there's lots of crazy stuff like that already in Star Wars, and like Will doesn't really seem like that. Like, he seems like a totally normal guy that just got dropped from this ultra primitive place that he's from into like the greater galaxy, and he fits in really, really well, which is maybe that's why it's so bizarre to me, because like we get lots of other kind of weird cultures in Star Wars, and they're always like really primitive. They have difficulty understanding language. They always sound like a certain way, like they speak choppy basic, I guess, and stuff. And so it's just weird to me that he's from like this, Avatar backwards planet, but he seems so normal, I guess. So maybe it just rubbed me funny. But
yeah, I think it was interesting for me, kind of seeing how Will saw the beauty in every different kind of scenario, right? Like and I think that's actually very different in Star Wars, because we as people that are seeing Star Wars, we can see how the Falcon's beautiful to us, and we can see how, like, oh, Tatooine, right, it's got this kind of mystique to it. But if you're in it, it all kind of sucks. Like, it's all dirty and bullshit. Yeah. Like, and I think that Will is almost acting more as a watcher or a reader, being like, I can find the beauty in this. I can find the song of the universe, whatever it might be. And one last thing I want to add to the community that I really loved about the planet is that when the Empire came, how they all kind of mutually agreed that they needed to send pilots to go help.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. Like, they said it wasn't written down. It wasn't a message. They just all kind of spoke it amongst themselves that we are the best flyers in the galaxy, and it is our duty to send away our people, which is something they would never do.
Right.
Because
straight up Hunger Games style too, by the way.
Yeah, man.
Everybody... Like every like, how was it described? Tribute. Right, yeah. Every individual group of like different cult. I don't know what they are. Are they tribes? I don't know.
Yeah, like each individual tribe, like the river, the tree, like whatever they were called. They all had to send a couple people, and knowing they'd probably never go home again. And I'm like, that's an interesting thing about, on the bigger scale of sacrificing your own well-being for people you've never met and probably will never meet, but because it's the right thing to do, because suffering exists. So even though it's not really affecting me on a personal level, I will still help. And I'm like, that's a really beautiful sentiment.
Yeah, and just one other thing I want to mention is I really love when you get tiny little tie-ins into the main story or to the main characters. I don't like when it feels shoehorned.
Right.
But there was a really nice moment where when the Empire, I guess, first got to Polinius, that they sent a ambassador, I guess, from Polinius to go see the Emperor. And I don't know if y'all recall this, but he disappeared and was never heard from again. The guy that they sent from Polinius. So I guess the Emperor killed him or had him dispatched. And I thought that was just a nice little subtle thing that kind of tied Will's background to the Empire at large and the Emperor on a personal level.
Yeah, good catch.
Now, Eric, you mentioned that you think that Will was talking to his ship like it was a sentient being because that's what he was used to where he grew up. Corey, did you feel similarly? Or had you not even thought about that?
I mean, I thought it kind of made sense. Like, I don't know if I I'm trying to remember how I was feeling actually reading it. It was so long ago at this point. I don't think that I specifically remember being like, "Oh, it's like his horse." Like, I don't think I ever had that thought. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think yeah, exactly. I don't think I ever saw it like that. I mean, I kind of just looked at it as like, I don't know. Ships have historically always been feminized, right? Mm-hmm. Like, even in like real world history, right? Not Star Wars. Like in real world history, like people have often talked about vehicles and ships specifically, which like the Navy has always sort of had like a female character, like almost a human component to it.
Yeah, like she'll get you home, and like, you know, she's a fighter. Like, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and that goes back like a long, long ways. Even early airplanes, they would paint crazy things on the sides of them and give them crazy names and stuff. So I kind of looked at it like that, which is very fighter pilot kind of thing to me. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, heck, even with my car, you know, like if you know when your car's making a weird noise, you just kind of give the dashboard a tap and be like, "Oh, come on, no." No, I can't afford this right now. Like, I've talked to my car. I don't know. I'm sure everyone does that, right? That's a normal thing.
I just swear at mine a lot when it doesn't do what I want
to do. Will would never swear at his ship.
No, never. But he speaks to a ship. He speaks to other people too. And one excerpt from the book that I think really spoke to his character a lot was when he broadcasted on an open channel to the TIE fighters, the enemy TIE fighters who were actively hunting him and his crew. And I'm just curious, what did you guys think about that moment? What do you think, what kind of insight did that give us into Will's character, that in a moment of recess from active combat, that he would reach out and try and speak and relate to his enemy?
I think it's...
I will say that was a great scene.
Yeah.
Like that whole scene was really, really cool. And like, I think I feel like I kind of saw where it was going, like a little bit. So if you haven't read the book, there's the scene in which Charles is talking about, like they're like in space and there's a sort of an ongoing battle going on, but they end up both like the Riot Squadron and the other rebels and the Empire end up with a lot of downtime with the ships of both sides just kind of fly around in space, and Will like broadcast on an open channel hoping that the Imperials will kind of talk to him back, and this guy does, and he tells this legend of like the nebula or something that they're like hanging out in and stuff.
Yeah, the Oridol cluster.
Yeah, right. And then at the very end of his whole he's talking about like, do you guys remember the details? Like, it's like the cluster is some kind of god and legend,
it's a sentient.
Like that.
Some people say it's a being and it has desires and it has like, it speaks to people and things like that. And then he's like the cluster is gonna hear you die or something.
Right, like it's something like, good thing that's a legend because the cluster is going to eat your face and crush you into oblivion because the Empire rules and you suck. It's just like kind of over the top.
They literally play propaganda messages. Like, I'm assuming like, you know, like Hitler level speeches over the channel. And it was a really hard scene to read actually, and then to listen to in audio. Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained tweeted out when he was reading this book, the page number about this scene, and said, hey, this is where I fell in love with this book, was this scene. And I agreed to an extent, because reading it was really kind of the most vulnerable I think I've seen a Star Wars character in a long time, about saying, you know what? We've been reading a lot of stories lately with Inferno Squad and other things, even this one, about Imperial defectors, and they're actually not all bad guys, and maybe like they all kind of want an out. And that scene was a really nice fake out, because it was like, I want to talk to you, but no.
These guys they're real Imperials. Like, they want to kill you because they're evil, right?
And I think there's a moment now, again, to bring it into a bigger picture about the world right now. A lot of people want to believe that, you know what, if someone on the other side of me, whether it's politically or whatever it is, if I just speak to them with compassion and love, they'll actually respond in kind. And sometimes, no. Sometimes they literally just hate you. And it's like, and I think maybe because of what's going on in the world right now, that it hit me a little harder personally, because I was like, man, he did everything right. He is trying to reach out and is trying to stop bloodshed, and sometimes that's just not enough. And that was really sad. It's really well written.
Man, that's deep. I love that. My next question, I'm just going to ask you guys straight up, okay, before we move on from Will survive this trilogy, because he is just so intent on making it home again. And if that just doesn't seem like the perfect way to break all of our hearts, is to not let him get there. So will he survive? Yes or no?
They're gonna burn his planet.
Ooh.
So he lives, but his planet and culture die.
Oh my God! Wait, does he try to take Alphabet Squadron back home to see Polonius, and they get there and it's been cindered?
Yeah, it's been cindered, man. I think this was going to happen. That would be terrible, but a really great sort of. That'd be a great tie to get everything together with his backstory. I think. All
right, yeah.
Burn them! I'm basically the Imperial right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think that's the gut punch of that is pretty hard.
That would suck. I will say that Will's entire sort of emotional response to the open channel broadcast thing was done really, really well. Like, it was just like, I think one of his other squadron mates like reached out and was like, "Hey man, are you okay?" Basically, because it was like the transition from the guy talking about like this cool legend and Will feels like he's reaching this guy to him being like, "And we're gonna cut your throat and rip out of your guts." Like, it was like really staunch, right? So. And it like really messed with Will's head, and it was done really, really well. That was cool. So if we can capture that emotion, like in an Alderaan being destroyed context, then that might be super interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and I think maybe there's something too. We talked about Nath a lot last episode, right? Like Nath and Will's friendship and relationship getting a lot closer.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a moment where Nath has to be the one after Will sees Polonius gone to be like, "Hey kid, like you're okay. Like don't let this change you," because I think Nath is going to see Will start to go down like his path of cynicism and hatred, and I think Nath is going to have to be the one that pulls him back, because I think Will might have the moment of like, "I need to burn them all," like, you know, because he's what, like 19, I think.
Yeah, he's young.
He seems young.
Yeah. Also a little small shout out. Will's gay, and it's not made a big thing, and I think that's
I forgot about that.
They just all talk about true. Like. She's like, "Oh, Chas is mad at me," and Nath is like, "What? Just sleep with her boyfriend?" And it's just like a thing. And I think that was really cool. Like, it sucks that still has to kind of be an addressed thing, but I thought that was handled really casually and really well. So shout out.
No, I honestly think it kind of needs to be addressed, and that we should address it as an expanded universe podcast, because this is not the first time this happened. Like, Wendig made big headlines when he put the first gay character ever in Star Wars, and one of the big criticisms of that is because it was so in your face in that book. Like, there was like a whole scene designed around it in a way, and that's been a major criticism. And like, you know, I can definitely see both sides of it. You know, if you're going to argue that there shouldn't be gay characters in Star Wars, like, you're wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Like, there's gay people in real life. There has to be in Star Wars, right? It's a gigantic galaxy. That nobody would ever argue that a human and a Twilight shouldn't be together. That's stupid.
Exactly.
Right? So whatever. That's my formal opinion. Hate me if you want to. But like, in my opinion, it doesn't need to be something that we have to make a big deal out of it every single time. And the way it was done in this book, I think was very appropriate. It didn't call attention away from the book at all to be some sort of agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was handled like a romance, and I think that's like,
it does.
It was just who he is, and it was a part. Right. Like same with Erica, she's bisexual, and it was handled in a way of like, she mentioned her first girlfriend and a memory, and that was it, and then it moved on. Like, it was a really naturalistic way that a person in the queer community would talk about their past just casually. Right. And I think that Freed should really be applauded for throwing that in there and having that be part of the characters. So also, if Will could settle down with a nice guy, like, God,
that would make you so happy.
I'm just so afraid now his planet's going to be destroyed, Corey. Like, I hadn't thought about it, and now I'm just so worried for poor Will's heart. Yeah. He's been through so much.
Yeah. I just don't care about the whole any liberal agenda that's somehow hidden in the expanded universe. That is just such a silly concept to me. And I could care less about it. Even if there is an agenda, I don't care. Just give me more Star Wars books.
If like your agenda is like to show people that they're also in Star Wars and everyone's kind of nice to each other, all right, is that sorry?
I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, but Team Will, to round this up, Hardcore Team Will.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think the planet thing, Corey, you're right on. I do think he's going to survive because I think it's too easy for him to die. I think in Legends he would have died, but I think in canon,
I don't know.
I agree with that. I think that it's almost I think they're being too obvious about it, like that he's always talking about home. He almost died like a couple of times in this book.
Yeah,
like he almost died when they did
like,
the whole
at least,
mine training mission.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Alexander Freed is just messing with us, and he's going to end up surviving, but someone else is going to die in his stead. That is
and they keep talking about like Will is, I think. I would argue, not just because I love him, but because of what the book says, probably the best natural flyer in the squad. Yeah. I think like Nath talks about it a lot, about how good the kid is at flying, and Chas respects him. I think that purely on skill, I think Will has maybe that'll be it. Maybe like it'll be a really tough maneuver to escape, and like the Y-wing is a little too slow, so Nath goes, and Will could pull a quicker maneuver and escape, and then he has that survivor's guilt or something.
I can see it.
It's gonna hurt. Whatever happens, it's gonna hurt me.
It will. There will be heartbreak. But let's go ahead and shift gears. Let's talk about the next member of Alphabet Squadron, who is Chas Nachotic. She is the B-Wing pilot. She is the only surviving member, if you're sensing a theme, of Hound Squadron, which was a group of B-Wings who fought alongside Riot Squadron, which was Will's Squadron. Now, Chas is supposedly a Felan. That is her alien race. And that's the same race as Latarazi from the Clone Wars, if you remember her, one of the bounty hunters. Now, we're told that species as a whole is looked down upon by essentially everyone else in the galaxy. So how do you think that fact, how did that help to form the personality that we see Chas display in this book?
Let's talk a little bit more about Felan in general. Like, so does this show up anywhere in the films? I'm looking at a picture here.
Jabba's palace. One of the dancers has like neon pink hair and pink skin.
Yeah,
she's a Felan.
Yeah, she has a mohawk, right? Is it that one?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a mohawk. I'm looking at the picture here. So this chick is like, she's got pink.
Isn't it Rosati or something like that?
I don't know. She's definitely a.
I've gotten her a lot in the trading card app. That's what I know her from.
Interesting. Yeah, she's definitely, it's a humanoid species. It's got like crazy hair. They got sort of Twilight looking facial features, some weird sort of horn things.
Yeah,
out of their
not
head.
quite Zabrak, but definitely horns.
Yeah, they look very exotic.
They do.
Who is this chick from the Clone Wars? I don't remember this girl at all.
She ran around with Boba, I think, young Boba.
Yeah, the bounty hunter in the episodes when Asajj leaves and tries to be a bounty hunter for a bit. She's one of the people in that squad.
Yeah, she actually pops up in Dark Disciple as well.
Oh, no shit.
Oh.
Yeah, whenever Asajj kind of links back up with Boba for a little bit in that book, Latz is still part of his crew. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got like bright purple skin and stuff. So anyway, they're humanoid. Yeah. They're purpley.
Chas has she has a green mohawk, and she's got what was her skin? Was it caramel? What was the word? They used a word that was similar to that. Like she was like a light-skinned woman of color. I don't remember exactly the word, but yeah. But the green mohawk was continuously mentioned.
Anyway. That's who this was. Charles, did you ask us a question?
Yeah.
So her species, essentially, or her alien race is looked down upon, supposedly, by most of the rest of the galaxy. And we're not told why, and I imagine we might get that answer eventually. But how do you think that informed Chas's character and how she acted in terms of other people?
Well, she's like definitely super like edgy and like... I'm getting a lot of like really edgy goth emo vibes kind of from her, I guess, and I think it fits her perfectly. I mean, that's like the mantra of that sort of stereotype, right? They feel like they're exiles, and so like I thought it fit perfectly, and I'm really glad that they did this with an alien and not just like a very generic, humanoid or human female specifically. That they could have done that. They could have went just a really emotional teenage girl, kind of. And they didn't. It was this cool, exotic alien species, and I liked it.
Yeah, no, I really love that for her. I think that Matt, heads up, I think she's got a really cool fuck you attitude that she wears from day one. And then we get to see the little moments of vulnerability and like the pain that has crafted her, both from Charles, like you were saying, of her exile from society, coupled with losing her squadron twice over, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a sucker for the trope of the person, like, I have all these walls up, and slowly they go away, slowly they go away, slowly they go away. But what I think they do really well with her is that her walls go down for the squadron a little bit, but she never loses power when she does that. Because she's still like, listen, Will, we're good now, but you never get to take away my shot again. Like, she reminds me that you don't get to make decisions for me. Like, we're good, I respect you, I'm not angry anymore, but we still have to learn from this. As opposed to saying, like, yeah, I was overreacting, and, like, you know, kind of backing down.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I was going to get there eventually. Jas more or less despised Will, or seemed to despise Will, because he saved her life, essentially. He kept her from sticking around in a battle that was going to be lost, that she was going to die in. But at the same time, she tells a story about how Jyn Erso, shout out to Rogue One, how Jyn Erso saved her life, and she essentially was like enamored with Jyn Erso for what she had done. So why does she hate Will and idolize Jyn Erso?
I think with Will, it's that he took away any choice she had of staying. I think with Jyn, if I remember correctly, she was kind of helpless, and Jyn came in and saved her from a situation, like, period. Whereas Will took away the option she had, because Chas was choosing to stay and fight. She was choosing to stay by her squadron. And he said, no, you don't get to do that. I'm ripping that away from you and saving your life whether you like it or not. And I think that it's the idea of, if I want to sacrifice myself, I should be allowed to, like Jyn Erso did, you know?
Okay.
Like, she eventually sacrificed herself, but she made that decision. If I'm going to die, that's on me. And I think that from the outside, we can say that's kind of a ridiculous decision if your friend is saying that, because you're like, no, like, come on, think about more people other than yourself. Other people need you, et cetera, where I think they eventually get. But at the moment, I think it's the feeling of Jyn gave her power back and Will took her power away.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm also going to say that, like, I really like when members of the Rebel Alliance talk about why they're in the Rebel Alliance. Yeah. Like, that's always is. Let me rephrase that a little bit. It's not cool when they do that. It's cool when really dark, gritty individuals talk about why they're in the Rebel Alliance. Because, like, one of the coolest things one of the coolest scenes, I think, in Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars film, is that whole scene when Cassian is talking about, like, how that even though the Rebel Alliance, like, disagrees with her and is not going to make a move, like, they, like, volunteer to go to Scarab and stuff. And he's like, all of us have done awful stuff in the name of the rebellion. Like, we're assassins and saboteurs and all this crazy stuff. I love that entire scene, because it's like, you have these really dark individuals who are willing to, like, you know, go deep undercover and friggin' murder somebody because it might have some gain for the rebellion, but they also believe in this really noble cause, right? Like, they believe in like this greater, you know, ridding the galaxy of the, you know, tyranny of the Empire. And you have individuals who are really dark, like Chas is, who come across as a super edgy emo individual, but they're also buying into this whole noble rebellion thing, which seems very out of character for them. So, like, I've always liked it when we get to see these, like, the darker people that have darker sort of personalities. We get to see, you know, they still have the same mission, right? It's not to defeat the Empire just because they like murdering fools, right? I mean, it's because they want to rid the galaxy of the evil that is the Empire.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cassian, like you were saying, really embodies that the most. Like, I hate killing people. Like, I will do it, but I hate it. You know? Yeah. And I think that is a very awesome point of view that we're getting a lot with new Star Wars. You're totally right.
You know, you guys both mentioned how kind of dark and edgy Chas is, and one way that I think Alexander Freed got that across to the reader was with the music that she listened to in the cockpit, which was so unique. Because what did you guys think about this? Because I'd never even thought about that there's a music system in these ships.
Right. I mean, there's got to be, right? There's speakers for comms and there's things like that. And I thought it was a cool choice because, I mean, shit, when I'm at the gym and I'm like, I need to run on the treadmill and I'm exhausted, I'll throw on music and it just gets you pumped. So why wouldn't that same thing work in this situation? I think it was such a cool, unique part of her character. And if you guys have seen on Twitter at all, Alexander Freed's been retweeting a lot of Chas playlists. People have put together their own Spotify playlist. They're like, because he's never said what it was based on, because he wants people to make up their own. So that's a fun afternoon if you ever want to go check out people's Chas Nachatic playlists.
Interesting. We should find one and like share it and stuff on Twitter.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, the whole music thing. I definitely fit the vibe. It never occurred to me that could happen, but it makes total sense, like you said. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, now
I was picturing sort of. Sorry, I was interrupted. I was picturing sort of like the punch dance scene from Dirty Dancing.
That's exactly what it was like. You nailed it.
Yeah, basically.
So I want to take it from kind of that lighter question to a heavier question. This is how we're going to round out talking about Chas.
Oh, man.
She seems very much to me to be preoccupied with the idea of martyrdom in the name of the New Republic, or really in the name of the death of the Empire. Okay? She looks up to martyrs of the past. She wonders about if she'll be remembered when she's in the midst of battle. And she frequently does things that, quite frankly, seem very reckless in the middle of battle in the hopes of pulling off some crazy maneuver and winning a major victory. Do you think that she wants to become a martyr herself and die for the cause? Because that's the vibe that I'm getting from her.
So this is like a super profound. This is a super profound, deep question, Charles. You've obviously thought about a lot, so I want to hear what you have to say about this first.
Well, I mean, I kind of alluded a little bit to it there, but like, she really does to me seem preoccupied. Like when she talks about Jyn Erso, yes, she does talk about how she, is a huge fan, if you will, of her because she saved her life. Okay, and that might make you think, well, then no, she doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to be a martyr. Yeah, it makes sense, right? But really, what she talks about more so than that is about how Jyn gave everything to the cause that she believed in. And she doesn't just mention Jyn, and it's been long enough now that I've forgotten who else she's mentioned. But she also, when Will talks about the Battle of Endor, and all the people who died at the Battle of Endor, yeah, she, she's enamored by these people who gave everything for the cause. And then I look at that, and I look at it next to the crazy stuff that she does in these books that just seems to have no intent of self-preservation, and it just all ends up equaling, I think she wants to die in the name of the Republic. Not to mention that she was angry at Will, like we talked about earlier, for keeping her from doing that very thing.
What if she sacrifices herself to save Will?
See, this is what I'm saying. Someone else is going to die in Will's stead, and you're very right. It could be Chas.
That'll be perfect for her character arc.
You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump.
Lieutenant Dan!
Because, remember,
you got legs, Lieutenant Dan!
He gets so angry at Forrest for saving him in Vietnam, right? He's like, I was supposed to die on the field, all of my family, and all this kind of thing. But eventually lives the life and realizes, oh, it was worth it. And I think that at the end of this first book in the trilogy, when Chas is killing TIE fighters and killing TIE fighters, that's all she wants to do. And Will gets through to her and says, Chas, this is now a rescue mission. We have to change. She fights it, but then eventually she acknowledges it, gives up the glory of the battle, and goes to help save people. I think that's the beginning of her switch. Because
all we have to do is have her get her legs cut off. All right, fly her B-wing up into a stormy planet, climb up on top of it, and be screaming at the sky to get struck by lightning.
That's exactly
the legs cut off. The legs cut off thing seems like a big jump, but it's really not in Star Wars.
Dude,
that happens sometimes.
There's no way that everyone keeps all their limbs through 3 books, right? Come on. Someone's gotta Kairos loses a finger, and it's oh no. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, so I think that she definitely had wishes of martyrdom because she had survivor's guilt doubled over. Like, it was pretty intense. But I think at the end of this book, she finally realized, okay, she did one mission where she could put that aside to help the cause, and I think the next 2 books are going to be her reckoning with that more and more. And maybe if the Polinius Cinder operation happens like we think, when Will decides to go a little crazy, maybe then she's the one that said, hey, no, you're the one that told me it's about the mission, about this squad. You're not allowed to go sacrifice yourself because you didn't let me do that. And maybe she's the one that has to bring him back. I think someone's got to bring Will back from darkness, and it's going to be either Chas or Nath.
All right, fair enough. So let's move on to Kairos, the final member of Alphabet Squadron, who I have a deep love for.
You love
She's
Kairos.
the Ewing pilot. I mean, what do we even know about Kairos? I'm not even really sure. She's pretty much a mummy in a helmet who kicks ass. That's about it.
Yeah.
Basically, she's the most mysterious member of the squadron, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know much of anything about her. What are your predictions for her character, or in your head, what is your head canon? Like, who is she? What situation is she coming from? What species is she?
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys thinking about her?
I hope she's a Tusken Raider.
Ooh!
That would be so
theory.
cool.
I heard that theory, actually, I think from the first time when I was listening to the Force Toast podcast, and they brought that up, because she has some raps, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So Caitlin has been, I've been begging her to take my advice and read, Caitlin's my wife, to read all the books in our Youtini foundational guide, right? So she's been listening to the audiobook of Kenobi. She's got like 45 minutes left. And we were painting our basement the other night and we were listening to it, and man, there's so much great Sand People stuff in Kenobi. Yes. I forgot how much amazing Sand People stuff there is. So I want Kairos to be a Tusken Raider so bad. That would be so freaking cool.
I don't know what I want from Kairos. Because on one hand, I like the idea that she's a new character from like an unknown species, but on the other hand, it's Star Wars, and you have someone that is wrapped up completely. That's a mystery, and you have 2 more books left. Like, come on, like we have to have a reveal at some point. But
there was a Jedi Tusken Raider at one point.
Legends.
Have you ever read about
crazy.
this?
Legends went too far.
No. I don't think it's like really well explained or anything. It's like reference, but I've seen there's a Wikipedia article. We should find it and read about it.
Wait, no, that's in Kenobi. Yeah,
is it?
Because they say that that's how they know what Kenobi is. That long ago, one of the Jedi came and lived as a Tusken, but had those powers. Yeah, that's in Kenobi.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
I'm talking about someone who was a Tusken originally was a Jedi, like somehow was force sensitive, and they got him at a later age or something like that. I'll find it and talk to you guys about it.
It's interesting because like Tusken Raider isn't really so much a species as like a life you come into, like Jedi.
Right.
Really,
that's definitely sort of the vibe that Kenobi puts off. Like,
yeah. Well, I won't spoil the end. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. But yes,
Kenobi.
anyone could be a Tusken Raider.
But I think that ultimately, I don't think Kairos is a Tusken Raider. I think that she is. I mean, she's obviously humanoid. I think that based on her story that she told around the fire, which I got to say, one of my favorite parts of this whole book. I love the campfire. We're all going to bond as a squad thing. Like said that the Empire came to her planet, lit it ablaze. I think she's covered in burns. I think that like literally her body was disfigured to an extent where if it's like almost a Vader-esque thing, right? Yeah. Like if she's not wrapped up completely, if her skin's exposed, it could be just unbelievable pain. And I think that someone on Twitter, I believe, said something about like the butterfly comparison, right? Like she's cocooned right now. She's changing and she's altering inside so that her evolution can take place. And maybe once her body's healed or her soul is healed or whatever they want to do with it, in the second or third book, she'll kind of emerge as something else.
Wow.
But she's a fascinating enigma, man. I mean, she is a kick-ass warrior. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, she really is. But she's pretty quiet. Right? She
speaks once,
which is so weird. It's so weird because like she does talk to Quill.
She can speak. Like she's capable.
Yeah.
There are two things that she is referenced as saying. One of them was right after Quill was hit pretty hard in the head. So you could say maybe she thought she heard this. But supposedly she says to Quell, make it right, after they have like a little skirmish. And then the other time she says the Emperor's shadow is long.
Yeah.
Right.
So what if she's just like a crazy person? Like she doesn't actually need to like talk and sign, but she does the whole campfire thing where she like explains her. I had so much trouble following that. Like I was just like, what the heck at all? Like, I don't feel like I know anything about her character.
It was cryptic.
But
it was definitely cryptic.
It's a tough one.
But she can talk. Like maybe she's just like a weirdo. Like that one weird kid on the playground that like can't talk like a normal person, so he just acts all cryptic. I don't know.
Well, so here's my question.
Crazy tangent.
Karen Aiden, right, he claims that he, and I quote, trusts Kairos deeply. So if their connection is so deep and he trusts her so much, why didn't he ever like consider Kairos to be the squadron commander? Is it literally because she refuses to talk?
Dude, she's not a commander. Are you kidding me?
She has selective mutism.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Okay,
Oh my god, she'd be the worst commander ever.
Listen, man, I think she'd be pretty good. Just follow my lead type of commander. Very Anakin Skywalker,
Yeah, Anakin Skywalker, except the personality's different, and the skills are different, and everything else is different.
Quips.
But other than that, you're so right. It's just like Anakin, Charles. If everything was just different, then they're the same.
All right. On that note, I have a question about Kairos. Do you guys think that she has some type of special abilities? And I don't mean force abilities per se, but just like a type of ability that the general person in the Star Wars galaxy doesn't have. And I'll tell you just quickly why I'm asking this question. Is because what she did to the Imperials on page 217 when she saved Chas's life. I want to say they're on Abednedo.
I think so.
I think that's correct, yeah. It was described that what she did to them left them all with, and I quote, blackened, unrecognizable heads. And in the same scene, it was referenced that she has some sort of weapon that looks similar to a Wookiee bowcaster.
Right,
but
yeah.
They never really explain that, and I don't know if they will, but just what in the world did all of that mean, and what did you guys take away from that?
There could be something. I mean, we've seen, like, Night Sister magic. What if she's a fucking Night Sister, dude? Like, what if Kairos is a Night Sister?
I've never liked the whole Night Sisters subplot. So, like, yeah, I didn't. Like, it's just, I don't like this weird...
Witches.
Yes, it's so weird and creepy, and I don't know. They're too creepy, man. I don't like them. I hope she's not a Night Sister. It would be a good story arc, though.
Yeah, like she has that weird kind of ethereal voice going on.
Yeah, it's because they're so hissy. That's why I don't like them. They hiss when they talk, and it's weird.
She's hissy.
We are the Night Sisters.
Yeah, and like her clothes are always moving. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe what she's doing with her circles is when the Separatists came to Dathomir and destroyed it.
Maybe she's just like a totally normal person, and she just takes her helmet off, and she's like, got him!
Or guys, maybe she's Boba Fett.
Oh
my gosh.
Takes off the helmet, and you're like, surprise! It's me!
You heard it here first.
Kairos is
Boba Fett. But
no, to answer your question, Charles,
she's like Anakin, but he's saying she is Boba Fett.
Exactly, you heard it here.
To answer your question, Charles, I would be surprised if she has some sort of special abilities. I just figured that, like, I kind of interpret that as just like she's,
a savage.
Yeah.
Raw brutality. Raw brutality.
Exactly.
Right.
Or she's Cloud. Maybe she's Cloud. From episode 9.
What? What are you talking about?
The big slug. The big slug that hangs out with Snap Wexley.
Oh. Is it Cloud? I've been saying Claude.
Claude's right. I think you're right.
Okay. What are you talking about? I'm still knowing what you're talking about.
When you said that, it struck me just like the line from Anchorman, I Love Lamb.
Are you saying things?
She is Cloud. Okay.
She is above us.
Whatever you say, man.
Kairos, Cumulus, wake up. Come on, they're the same thing.
All right, now, for the sake of time, there are literally so many more characters we could go through. I'm going to ask you guys a quick fire question about several other characters.
Right, real fast, let's go.
I just want to touch on briefly, okay? Karen Aiden, First of all, great to see another Balasar, just like Elon Sleaze Bogano, who's the Death Sticks guy from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. That is the same species.
Same
I have not put that together until just now.
Yeah,
do you want to buy some Death Sticks?
I was waiting for one of you to do an impersonation, so thank you.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
I guess.
Yeah.
Here's my question.
So do I.
What is Aiden's ultimate goal? Is it to be right, or is it for the New Republic to be victorious? Those are the
he's an arrogant prick. He doesn't care about the New Republic at all. He just wants he wants intelligence to be important, and it's not as important as he thinks it is.
Yeah, he wants to be in charge. He wants the glory. He wants the New Republic to succeed. Yes, but he also wants the glory.
Ooh. Okay, he's the Alliance equivalent of Director Krennic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I have nothing to add.
That's what he is. Like, he wants to be powerful, but he's not quite qualified for it. Not for military action anyway. Aiden drove me nuts the whole book. Like his entire mentality of wanting to like control everything drove me nuts. Like
we stand here amidst my achievements, not yours. Like that's exactly who he is.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, let's talk about Aiden's buddy ITO. So this was a torture droid who was basically retrofitted into becoming a therapist. So what did you guys like or not like about that idea or that character?
My wife Caitlin thought it was funny because she is a therapist, like in real life.
And also a torture droid.
Yes, also a torture droid. Yes. Do you guys remember, I think it's KOTOR 2, I think, where you like briefly play as a droid that's similar to the torture droid? Have you guys played KOTOR 2?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so there's like, I forget what his name is. I think he's got a G in it, but he's like some sort of crime boss thing or something. Like I can't remember the details. It's such a weird, convoluted subplot. But I think you briefly play as that or something like that. Is this?
I don't remember that, but it's been so long since I've played KOTOR 2.
Yeah, that's the same for me. KOTOR is on the iPhone and stuff, so I played it recently. Last couple of years. But KOTOR 2 I've not played since I was like middle school. So. But anyway, I thought it was cool. I mean, I liked all the commentary about how awkward it was to get therapy from a torture droid.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a therapist, but he was kind of still a torture droid to Quell.
Yeah, no. I love that. I dig it because I'm like, yeah, you got to repurpose that tech. Like, it's a lot of technology and it's a lot of useful stuff. And he can, like, administer syringes and shit. Yeah, no, I really liked the character, and I really liked by the end of it how he was kind of trying to balance I need to be a therapist, but I also am kind of become your friend. Like it's that droid thing. Like all droids have semblance of personality, and by the end of it, I really did feel like he was a friend to Irika, and I really dug that.
I agree with you, and I want to submit this to you guys. ITO is second only to Will Lark in this book in terms of how much he cares. Which is very strange for a droid, especially a torture droid, right? But I'm going to just leave you with this quote for him. On page 180, he's talking to Quell. He says, "Irika, please sit." When she asks him why, he says, "I'm not your friend, but I am concerned for your well-being, and I've committed to helping if at all possible." And then he says, "I understand what it means to change." And that line struck me as so deep. From a freaking torture droid. And that's the kind of stuff that would just randomly drop in this book that I loved so much.
Yeah, it's great.
All right. Hera Syndulla, we have to at least mention her. She was in this. My one question for you is, Quell asks Hera if being a soldier is worth all that it costs. And Hera responds by saying, "Look around you, Irika. The answer is all over." What does that mean, and what does that tell us about Hera Syndulla?
I think it means people wouldn't be there if it didn't. Like the idea of we're now the New Republic, we're no longer the rebellion. Like people are here because they want to. People are here for a new start. People are finding purpose. And if you have to ask if it's worth it, then you don't understand kind of all the progress that they've made. So I think that's what it means for Hera. It's always meant it. It's always been worth it. And now that they're starting to see a few results, I think that it's really helping.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I will say, too, that Alexander Freed totally nailed Hera Syndulla in this book. Like
better than A New Dawn. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think she's spot on to her character. Like especially right after having finished Rebels.
Yeah,
like
it's 10 years post Rebels, right? I think there's the timeline.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought it felt very much like her character, and I truly pictured her in my head talking when she had dialogue.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was funny listening to the audiobook. Saskia, she didn't do a Vanessa Marshall impression at all necessarily, but she still got the vibe of Hera, and I was a little worried about that because with the animation characters, it can be tough in audiobook because you're like, I've heard this character for so many hours, like Corey, especially with your rewatch recently, but I thought it still worked out very, very well. So props to her on that audio.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's very cool. Let's talk about Devin. He's the last character I want to touch on. Devin.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
Everything's fine here now. How are you? So Devin is I'm sorry. Is it Keyes or Kreese or Keyes?
Soren Keyes.
All right, Soren Keyes. He is Keyes. I'm a bit confused about the character and exactly. I think I know where it's headed, but I'm questioning what his motivations are because throughout this book, Devin seemed to be doing some anti-Imperial things and some anti-New Republic things. But then at the very end of the book, he kind of decides to go back to shadowing. Mm-hmm. Why did he do that, and what is his motivation, and where is this going?
Dude,
I think he's tired of running, man.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that reveal was awesome. Like I turned the page and I was like, what? And it was such a good cliffhanger when I get to the next book because I was a little confused about the Devon chapters. I'm like, cool.
Yeah, man. I will say the Devon chapters are very classic Alexander Freed. Like Twilight Company is basically nothing but these, right? Like that's why Twilight Company is very hard to read for a lot of people because it kind of feels like a lot of short stories that don't make sense until the end, kind of like Pulp Fiction, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's out of order almost. And that's how this was too. I remember reading that first chapter and the first chapter that Devon is mentioned in and like getting like pretty far into it before realizing that the plot is completely gone off the rails. Like it has nothing to do with what's happening at large. I'm like, what is this? Like, who is this character? And why am I suddenly reading about him randomly in the middle of this book?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, once you get that reveal, because as I said on the last episode, after I finished reading it, I immediately went back into the audiobook. Those Devon chapters get really dope once you know it's Keyes. Because you're like, because the first one, he's really trying to be like on the quote-unquote rebellion side. I'll be a good guy. All right, that didn't work, fine. And then he goes a little
more. He's such a badass, too.
He's such a badass. And then he goes a little more Imperial. No, and I think that once we find out the twist with Erica, when he was the one that told her, hey, you need to run. You don't have the stomach for this at all. I will also leave. I don't agree with it, but I can stick it out a bit longer, you know? I think that he thought, okay, I'm going to leave because everyone says, just start over. If you go out of here, you won't be hunted. And he found out that was bullshit, both from the Imperials and from the rebellion. So he's like, you know what?
Yeah,
fine.
Sure.
I tried to leave. I tried to do what you wanted me to, but you're going to try to kill me anyway. So I'm going to go back to the one thing I was good at. And we're definitely going to get that confrontation between him and Erica. I would assume in the second half of the next book, she's going to discover like he's the one now running shadowing.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a very formidable opponent too. Like, I think he's going to be a great villain. I can't wait to see
because he also doesn't have like the moral superiority of like what the Empire is doing is right. Like, he's not a Ray Sloan type character, right? He's like, no, I know this is messed up, but it's all I got. So sorry, I'm going to use my brilliance to destroy you, and he will. Yeah. And I'm so excited for more Soren Keyes.
Agreed, entirely. That is going to wrap it, though, for our character section. It's time for some major questions, guys. And I'm going to cut some out of here, too. Because I could literally do a part 3 and part 4, but we're not going to do that. So here we go.
We'll do the sequels.
The Hellions Dare, which was the ship that Riot Squadron and Hound Squadron were based out of, was essentially followed by Imperial forces through hyperspace, just like in The Last Jedi, right? So, with that in mind, why were the New Republic forces so shocked in The Last Jedi when it happens, if that has happened to New Republic military before? And I'm going to ask you on top of that, not to throw any shade on The Last Jedi, because I love The Last Jedi, but did you prefer the Oradal cluster way in this book that being followed through hyperspace happened, as opposed to what we saw in the running out of fuel, scenario in TLJ.
I think in TLJ it's confusing because the sequence that they use to track people in this book requires that they leave a ship behind after the coordinates are transmitted, right? In Last Jedi, no one got left behind. They all jumped, and then First Order jumped.
Suddenly showed up.
Yeah, so they didn't have anyone left. So I think that's why it's confusing. That being said, I did prefer this book's explanation of that. I love the idea that
it was very practical.
Yeah, and it's also way harder. Like, you need way more skilled pilots. Like,
it was,
the fact that
really
you need to know when the ships are preparing for light speed. You need to know when the ships will have the coordinates, and then you need to have the skill to disable the ship with your TIE fighters while not killing it, so that the computer is still intact. Like,
if you're gonna force me to talk about one of the major plot holes of The Last Jedi, hey, listen, we're a positive community of fans, and we really should not crap on The Last Jedi as much as possible. But all being said, taking into account the expanded universe, the choice to make the hyperspace tracking a thing in The Last Jedi, in my opinion, was a mistake. Like, there's not... tracking through hyperspace is not a new concept. It's done in Legends a lot. Like, they can, like, by using, like, ion, I don't know what you call it. Like,
it's like the
residue.
Trace that they leave behind when they jump to hyperspace. Yeah,
exactly. Like, they've, like, that's happened a lot in the books, where they can, like, kind of calculate the most probable places that they would end up, and then based on the direction that they jumped in and stuff. That's why in Legends is why they do so many jumps. Like, if you have to outrun the Empire, you randomly jump a bunch of times because it's hard to trace your eye on whatever.
I think for Last Jedi too, because, like, I agree. Like, I think Last Jedi worked because you can go through that level of detail in a book. I don't want to watch a movie with that scene, Mother of God.
Yeah, it makes it so. I think the whole hyperspace tracking and the jump to light speed and kill the entire fleet. Those are both very, very dangerous precedents to set for Star Wars. Like, now it's in the film, so it's canon. So, like, does that mean that we can never ever see a space chase in Star Wars canon ever again? Because now hyperspace tracking is a thing. So unless they canonize the idea that somehow that technology was destroyed and nobody could figure it out again,
or also, like, only the First Order's, like, lead destroyer had it. Like, I think it's still, like, very elite level technology. Like, we also have, like, canonized armor and stuff that stops lightsabers, but it doesn't mean everyone's got it.
True.
Right. It's just I hope going forward we're able to recover is too strong of a word and too negative a word. I don't mean recover from that, but I just hope that in the future that hyperspace tracking is done the way that it's done in Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah,
like, it has a very practical explanation. Like, you know, they all converge on one guy right before they jump to light speed to steal the coordinates out of their data computer. That's genius. All right, and it was very tactical and done well. And, you know, I hope it's just not like, oh, we can't escape to light speed anymore. I hope that's not
really well done for you.
I agree. All right, now the name Skywalker, which are you guys familiar with that?
I've heard it before. That's the Chiss kids, right?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
No. This is the kid. This is the one from the desert planet, I think.
Yeah, him too.
I'm not certain.
Wait, Jeddah?
Him too. No, the other one.
Geonosis?
No, the other one.
Not Geonosis?
Not Geonosis, not Jeddah? Fasana? No, the other one.
Jakku.
No, the other one.
All right.
No. You're thinking of Tots Tatooine.
Oh, Tatooine. Little children, little tots.
Okay, so side note really fast. What the hell is up with Anakin not being able to pronounce his own planet's name?
When does that
Why
happen?
does he says Tatooine always. Why does he say Tot? He says Tatooine over and over again. It's obviously Tatooine.
When does he
Why
ever
does he
say
Tot?
I honestly don't remember.
No, he says it. Tatooine. He says it multiple times in the films. He calls it Tatooine. It's like, why?
I'm not sure. All right, when I do my episode 9 rewatch, I'm gonna figure that out, and I'll get back to you.
Just wait for it. It's one of my complaints about the dialogue in the prequels.
That's it. That's the only thing that's wrong with the dialogue in the prequels. That's the one thing we found out.
Listen, we've already talked about The Last Jedi. We can't start talking about the dialogue in the prequels.
For the record, I love all of it. Now,
I do too.
I hate light speed tracking. It's coarse, and it gets everywhere.
Oh my god! All right, ask your damn question about Skywalker, Charles.
The name Skywalker is pretty casually dropped a few times throughout this novel. And my question for you is, do you think that there is a connection between some of these characters and the OT characters? And are we ever going to learn what those connections are? And what I'm going to present to you as my evidence for thinking that might happen is on page 96 when Chas is talking to Will and she asks, did you meet them, Calrissian or Skywalker? And it says, she thought she saw a flash of hesitation in Will when she said Skywalker, but Sadanique was too quick for her to comment. So there's some recognition there. We know he was at the Battle of Endor. What's going on?
Skywalker's Will's ex-boyfriend.
Oh my god!
That could happen.
It could happen.
Oh my god, guys.
Let's not go there, Eric. You're too far. Don't do it.
I'm just seeing the Twitter comments. I'm just like imagining
I can too.
Wildfire.
It's no secret that like there's like a gigantic Reylo like Twitter community.
It's
like
huge.
It's huge. I can't wait to get somebody on the show that's like really more familiar with that than we are because like there's like a non let's just see them have sex on screen community. Like there's like there's like a real fan community that wants to see the story taken somewhere. There is also a weird sort of fetish sexting community.
Yes, I'm not going to call anyone out specifically, but some of the accounts that we follow, I'm like, wow.
Anyway, the point that was a gigantic. I'm so far off the rails now.
If Kylo equals Reylo, then does Luke and Will equal Skywalker? What are we going to call this?
Wook?
Will Walker? Skywill? I don't know. It's a good question.
So tweet at us your options.
But no, I think
anyway.
I think that,
the point. Sorry to take it off the rails. The point I was trying to make there is that like if that ever became a thing, like people would freak out and be obsessed with it, and then everybody else would be like screaming, "No, that's a terrible idea. Star Wars is dead to me."
Yeah, I'm like,
let's burn my Nike shoes.
Exactly. No, I think that's Luke. I think there's a definite chance that some of the people were maybe in Luke's squadrons post Endor, because I mean he didn't just stop being a pilot immediately. I assume, or I mean he kind of still probably did a couple missions to help clean up and things like that. So I think their names are definitely known. I don't think anyone had like a super personal relationship with any of the OT characters. I don't think they would have gone that far. But I know one of the pilots, when they were talking about when I die, who do I tell? One of them said, tell Skywalker. So I'm guessing like they were in his squadron at some point. Nothing really beyond that. I think they're just legendary characters.
That is a good question though. Why did Will sort of have that double take when that happened? That was I did notice that too, and it was very interesting.
Maybe he's a legend. Like in Last Jedi, like his name gets whispered after so many years. So maybe we get to the point where he's already kind of had that level of fame.
Yeah,
perhaps.
All right, final major question, and we touched on it last episode, but I want to know, why do you guys think that the Emperor created Operation Cinder, and does it have anything to do with his suspected return in The Rise of Skywalker?
Oh my god, wow. That's such a big question.
It's a big question.
That's not just a big question, that is the question.
Right? The question.
I don't know, man. I've been racking my brain ever since we first started talking about this. I mean, I listened to like part one. I listened to that episode this week when I was painting my basement, and like I was just kind of reflecting on why did Cinder happen? Like I brought that up, and I still don't know. Like it just doesn't make any tactical sense. Like, the Empire is supposed to be like the Nazis, right? Mm-hmm. They're loosely based on them. They're called stormtroopers. That's originally Nazi terminology. Like Hitler's last orders for the Nazis were to go into the hills and, wage guerrilla warfare. And that makes tactical sense. Like, but Cinder makes no sense at all. I just cannot fathom a reason that really Imperial loyal planets would be just blown to shit. That just doesn't make any freaking sense to me. Like, I can understand if Operation Cinder was like, destroy all the enemies of the Empire, but that's not what they did. They burned all the loyal planets, which just seems completely counterproductive, and I cannot figure out a reason for it.
I think that it doesn't make sense if Palpatine wasn't a Sith Lord. I think that just political.
But he's not. Listen, you made that point last time that it's like a crazy psychotic thing, but that's not his style, man. Palpatine is.
I think that, and I think there is reason to it, because if you're just political and you just want allies that you don't care who they are, yeah, it doesn't make sense. But I think if Palpatine knew that if he dies, that means everyone surrounding him was not powerful enough to keep him alive, to keep the Empire going, and they need to be punished for that. I mean, this goes back to Bane. Like, if you're not strong, you deserve to be destroyed. And I think that Cinder is even the name of it, right? We need to go to cinders, to ashes. Like, it's a punishment for everyone that failed, number one.
Yeah.
It's like literally Force Lightning to the galaxy. Like, he Force Lightninged his own apprentices a bunch of times as he was training them. It didn't matter if they were loyal. He's like, you failed, you deserve to suffer. And then 2, Cinder makes me think of ashes, and it's like Phoenix rising from the ashes. Is like,
yeah, that's a really good
paving
point.
the way for what we're assuming is the First Order, who are like the neo-Nazi equivalent, right?
Right.
To then rise later, because you can't. He didn't want Empire 2, because the Empire failed. That is done. We now have to rise.
It's like Bane destroying the whole Sith to create the Rule 2. I mean, it's kind of start from scratch.
Yep.
I guess I can kind of see that. That's a very good. That's the best theory I think I've heard so far.
I agree.
I think there's a possibility that we're going to see some of the Red Robe messengers in Episode 9. I think that might be how we see Palpatine instead of in a physical appearance, because we're seeing him in Alphabet Squadron, we see him in Aftermath, we see him in Battlefront 2. Like, I think that might be what we see.
I want, and I think we're actually going to see him come back. Maybe not like in a corporeal form, maybe in like a weird force, ghost, spirit type of form, because the Sith are so like enamored with the idea of not dying and not giving up their power, right? And if anyone actually accomplished that, I think it would be Palpatine or Sidious. Yeah. And here's what I think that he was doing with Cinder. This is my only thought. I think he was trying to figure out who was truly loyal to the Empire, like who, even after he was gone, was still loyal to the idea of him and his rule, because he knew that he was going to come back, and when he came back, he wanted to have this refined version of only those people who were literally obeying the orders of who they thought was dead. They're that dedicated to him, they're that loyal, and these are the people that he wants to try to lead to retake the universe and retake his throne.
That's not bad. Because, like, that's legwork. Essentially, when you're gone, like, death won't stop your obeying my orders, so now I'll trust you, and you will then inherit my riches.
Exactly. Now, on that note, I want to leave you guys with ITO's theory, because I thought it was incredibly interesting and very well said. So, I have it here. He says, "Can I offer my theory? The answer is simple. The Emperor who ordered Operation Cinder, who built 2 Death Stars, who oversaw countless genocides and massacres and created an empire where torture droids were in common use, was not a man of secret brilliance and foresight. He was a cruel man, petty and spiteful in the most ordinary of ways, and spiteful men do spiteful things. Whatever else he intended, that is at the root of it all." And then Quell says, "He ruled the galaxy for over 20 years. Everything we are is because of him. How do we get past that?" And ITO says, "Erica, that's what we're all here to find out."
I wholly disagree with him, man. I wholly disagree with it. Like Eric, the reason I jumped up so much, because a minute ago you said something, and I was like, no, he's not psychotic. Like in the part 1 of our little talk about Alphabet Squadron last week, you briefly mentioned something along those lines, that like he's evil and psychotic and just wants to destroy everything. And that is ITO's theory, and I'm just like, that just seems so unlike Papa Palpatine, man. Like
simple.
Papa Palpatine, read Darth Plagueis, man. Like, he is so calculating, like in planning. Like, he doesn't have that's how he's different than the other Sith, right? He doesn't have a cruel for the sake of being cruel bone in his body. Like, even Bane did. Like he would just be evil, even though a lot of times he said things, like he said, like, you shouldn't just be cruel for the sake of being cruel, but he did stuff that was fairly cruel for the sake of being cruel. And Palpatine is just not like that. Like, I would just find it very hard to believe that he's just like, bird fingers up, screw you guys. If I can't be powerful, nobody else can either. Let's just burn all the planets. That just does not seem like Palpatine to me.
I guess we'll find out in December. Cinder.
Do you guys think we're gonna get Cinder mentions like in the film? You think that's gonna happen?
I honestly. So with episode 9, my thing is I'm honestly trying to speculate as little as possible, which isn't the best thing to say in a Star Wars podcast. But because I feel like the more I speculate, the more I'll get attached to something that I want. And then regardless of quality of the film, I'll be disappointed because my own personal thing didn't come true, and I hate that.
Yeah, I've never bought into that. I mean, I will read
a lot
some
of people
theories
don't
and stuff.
do it. Me personally, I know I will do that. It's dumb.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I do have some connective tissue, if you will, quote unquote, / Easter egg / new canon things to run by you rapid fire, and then we're done.
Round us
all
out.
right? We always do these.
I thought you were gonna say I have some connective tissue on my scrubs and I gotta go shower up and stuff. Gross.
Yes. Well, put air quotes around that. All right. We do this every time we're going to do it. Number 1, Sadanik, who was one of Will's co-pilots in Riot Squadron, mentions reclaiming Coruscant for the New Republic. Now, we haven't seen that story in canon, but it is a major, major plot point in the Legends X-Wing series. So that was a huge shout out to that. On page 78, the corporate sector, aka Corsec, is mentioned as featured in the Han Solo adventures. I don't know if that was his first canon nod, but it is at least a canon nod, and I thought that was awesome.
It might be. Isn't Corsec kind of like this really cool like FBI, CIA type of police force out of Corellia? Isn't that right?
The corporate sector is like it was like a non like government related sector of space that Han Solo operated in, like during the Brian Daley
the corporate
series.
sector was,
but Corsec was also Corellian security.
Corsec is Corellian like security forces or something as well. Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
those are super cool. I always really like the mention of Corsec. I feel like there's like a big character in Legends. It's totally blanking on who it is.
Corin Horn.
Corin Horn.
It's literally Corin Horn.
That's.
His entire backstory is he worked for Corsec.
It is Corin Horn. Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. I really
black out that.
I have wiped it from my brain. I did like that part about Corin Horn's backstory that he was like a detective kind of guy.
Yeah. All right.
Too bad the book that he's in absolutely blows.
Oh, jeez. All right, moving on. The Emperor's Messengers, as we discussed, as seen in Battlefront 2, heavily featured in this book. Very cool to see some more from them. You know what was even cooler, though? Pod racing. Mentioned several times in this book.
That's true.
I still want my pod racing novel. They actually referenced that there was a pod race on the planet Cantonica, which is where Canto Bight is located. So that's really cool.
That is true.
Page 96, Freed totally broke the fourth wall whenever he had a character say, and I quote, "A long time ago now, far away from here," when he was starting a story.
Awesome.
That's totally a reference to how every movie opens, of course. The White Book was mentioned, which is the New Republic's book of rules and regulations that was mentioned in Freed's other novel, Twilight Company. So it got some continuity there. Admiral Ray Sloan is mentioned in this book on page 105.
She's so great.
On page 120, an astromech droid who has a 20-character serial number compressed down to D6L. My question is, does that mean that R2-D2 and C-3PO are also compressed names? Do they have full names that we don't know?
Oh,
maybe.
I think so, actually. That might be on Wikipedia.
I'm curious. I didn't know this, and if that's the case, tweet at us.
Yeah, R2 is R2 Naruto. That's his full name. You just call him R2.
Page 147, Chief of Intelligence Kraken is mentioned. Kraken is actually a longtime Legends character, including in the X-Wing series, but he was actually brought into canon. There was a rebel on board the Millennium Falcon in ROTJ who was retroactively designated to be the character of Kraken. I don't know if you guys know this,
awesome.
but
what?
Yeah.
That's okay. You got to explain that further. What are you talking about?
That's the extent. So Kraken became a major Legends character. And then it ended up just becoming retconned, essentially, that one of the characters in the Falcon, in one of the movies, that is Kraken. Like, that's the guy that plays Kraken. But that was not who he was hired to play. He was just a guy that was there.
Well, yeah, because all this continuity is honestly... George didn't know any of this shit in the 80s. Like, come on.
No,
there's 40-something years now of crap. Like, I mean, it can't be continuity.
Yeah.
No, not at all. All right. Nuris, or the grandmother, always calls the rebels separatists or the New Republic separatists,
cool.
Which makes sense, but it's just I've always thought of it as a very specific prequel term referring to Dooku and his faction.
The CIS, the Confederation of Independent Systems.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Page 170, Hera specifically mentions how much she misses the crew of the Ghost, which was just heartbreaking. Page 211, a Verpine is mentioned, and I was thinking that might be a little bit of an homage to Rogue Squadron because they had a Verpine mechanic in that book.
Probably.
That's true.
Yeah. On page 225, Freed uses the word restroom. Since when are they no longer refreshers?
Oh, that's so true. Holy crap. Somebody screwed up. He screwed that up. They're always refreshers in Star Wars.
Now there are restrooms as well. Maybe they're literally rooms for rest.
Guys, my childhood is ruined.
I'm telling you.
Mine is too. I think I'm done with Star Wars
now.
It's
been fun. 13 episodes. That's all we got.
All right. Last ones. Hera's call sign is Spectre 1 in this novel. So now we have had Hera involved with the Ghost, the Phantom, and now Spectre. Very cool. All synonyms for each other.
Love that.
That's true.
Now, finally, page 368, Chas says, maybe she could get inside, rip through the thing. She was talking about another ship. I should probably make that clear.
They were around the campfire. They were drinking a bit.
Oh my god, these sound like rap lyrics. Oh god, alright, I'm gonna get through this. She's talking about another ship. She says maybe she could get inside, rip through the thing like a bullet.
Go on.
Rap lyrics.
Like a bullet from a slug thrower. She was talking about flying her ship through another ship to destroy it, and I thought that was maybe some foreshadowing
Sure.
To Holdo's maneuver in The Last Jedi. So that's all I got. That is all your connective tissue, Corey. /
It's not on your scrubs. It is in episode 13.
That is right. And with that, I will round out this round table.
Well, I have one last thing I want to talk about really quick today that occurred because you brought up continuity. I meant to bring this up to you guys earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought of it today. So I've been listening to the Revenge of the Sith novelization for several weeks now. Like as occasionally I'll get in the car, be in the mood to listen to it. I'll listen to it. I was listening to it today, working in the basement, and I got to the scene where Obi-Wan is on Utapau and he is seeing the. What's the creature called that he rides? Do you guys know?
Not off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking about.
Is it Eope? It's not an Eope.
No, that's one on Tatooine.
No, different.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, so that's the same thing he rode in Master and Apprentice, is it not?
Yes, correct.
It is. Yeah.
Yes. So it was very interesting seeing like an author's description of Obi-Wan meeting that animal for the quote unquote first time, because up until that point, the continuity was that had not been done yet, right? So now Master and Apprentice has made it that Obi-Wan rode one of those as a much younger like Padawan, right? Yep. So in Revenge of the Sith, he's not.
He already knows
that same scene occurs, but like it's a big continuity issue, and that totally occurred to me today. That's
interesting though, because the books are like essentially canon unless they directly contradict what's in the film, right? But now that everything is canon, are they canon unless they directly contradict the other canon?
Yeah, I think that in this instance, I think that they would give Master and Apprentice precedence.
Wait, how does that contradict it? He doesn't have a scene where
it doesn't contradict it. It's just the language used and the way that the scene plays out is obviously Obi-Wan has never seen one of these creatures before.
Oh, okay, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, so like, but that's definitely the same thing he wrote in Master and Apprentice, which is super interesting to me.
Grievous goes like, Obi-Wan, I've been training your Jedi arts by Count Dooku, and after the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan should be like, yeah, I know, we've fought like 20 times. Like, there's no reason for Grievous to like grandstand because they've fought so much already. So
yeah, that's totally true. True. Yeah,
but that'll do it.
My shameless plugs for Revenge of the Sith in this episode because I have to talk about it every episode apparently.
Yeah. So let's do our final. Now that we've talked about it, rankings and Alphabet Squadron again. Charles, I don't remember what your original score was. It was 8. You gave it an 8 originally.
8.
You gonna stick with that?
It was an 8, and I'm sticking with an 8. I felt pretty strongly like, you know, I really like certain aspects and others I wasn't as big a fan of, but overall, highly positive experience reading this book. I'm sticking with my 8.
All right, Corey, you're at a 6.5.
Yeah, I will also stick with my 6.5. Like, I definitely understand why you guys liked it as much as you did. But there were several scenes that I was just not nearly as crazy about. But, everybody's got their own stuff they love in Star Wars.
Totally.
And Master and Apprentice was my 10 out of 10 for me. So I totally get it.
All right. And I did a 9.5, and I'm going to stick there as well.
That's never happened before.
I know, we've never all stuck at the exact same one. But yeah, so that's our Alphabet Squadron. The next one of these is going to be Thrawn Treason, which comes out next week, dudes. It is.
Oh my god. It comes out next week? We still don't have our advanced copies? What is happening?
So we'll do Thrawn Treason, and then Galaxy's Edge, Crash of Fate, then Galaxy's Edge, Black Spire, all come out before the end of August. So
I'm glad that we have so many books coming, because I have too much free time. I don't know what to do with it.
Clearly. You're going to have to fill those hours, my friend. But stay tuned for those. We do these roundtables about 30 days after book release. So if you want to follow along with us, the Thrawn Treason roundtables will happen near the end of August, with the Galaxy's Edge book roundtables happening in September. And that'll do it. Guys, we did it yet again somehow. This week's episode of The Living Force. If you are new to the show, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and tune in every week to hear us at Youtini talk about the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Please do leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to help people find us, and head over to youtini.com for reviews, articles, and comprehensive book profiles on every single story in the Star Wars galaxy. Especially Alphabet Squadron, we have a review up right now, and if you've read it, go leave your community ranking on the book's page.
Yes, that's actually a really important point that we've been meaning to talk more about on the show. Listen, all of our books on youtini.com have a whole comment section, a community section where you can leave your review, and your review is automatically tied into the calculation of the star ranking that the community gives. So listen, if you have read Alphabet Squadron, please go to our website, youtini.com, and you can find Alphabet Squadron either in the timeline or by searching for it, and then leave your comments. Tell us what you thought about the book under the profile page. If you click on the book, it'll take you right to the book page, and give us your star ratings. I would love to see how the community feels about the book compared to how we as a team have rated it.
Exactly. And this is also every single book and story in Legends and canon. You can do this. So if you want to be the person that single-handedly is the community ranker for Youtini, you can go now and do every book you've ever read. And that is the official ranking until someone else comes along.
Yeah, because there are very few books, we just haven't promoted it very much. There are very few books that have a lot of community interaction on them. So, if you want us to talk about you on the show for having reviewed 150 books, then go do that.
Yes. So if you want your thoughts on the show, in addition to your rankings, email us at livingforcepod@youtini.com. Tweet at us at livingforcepod, or join our Youtini Discord community by going to youtini.com/discord. Speaking of that, we want to wish a belated happy birthday to Brent Sweeting, who is one of our most active and awesome Discord members. It was this past week. I hope that was great, Brent. Thanks for all the things you do in the Facebook group and Discord. Finally, if you want to join Timothy on Patreon, which we talked about earlier, go ahead, head over to patreon.com/Youtini. Like we said, we'll be adding content over there over the next few months when we do an official Patreon launch, but we absolutely appreciate any early support and help you can give if you feel inclined. You can find us personally on Twitter. I am at Eric Eilerson, Corey is at DocStarWarsMD, and Charles is at C. Henkel. Special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Freddie, our tech wizard, and Wes, our community manager. Thank you to Corey and Charles for podcasting with me this week, fellas. And as always, may the Force be with you.
There is no hatred. There is joy. There is no division. There is union. There is no apathy. There is passion. There is no gatekeeping. There is community. This is the Youtini Star Wars Fan Code. Embrace it, live by it, and above all, trust in the living force. That's all for this week. Join our community and surround yourself with like-minded fans by visiting us online at youtini.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you.